All right, diving right in. You've clearly been digging deep for some health knowledge, huh? Teeth, skin, eyes, ears, the whole shebang. We've got diagrams, we've got fun facts from way back when, even some head scratchers about it all. Ready to get our learn on?
Let's unpack it all.
First up, those pearly whites. Dental health. And, okay, I'm a sucker for a good did you know. So get this. The bristle toothbrush, a 15th century invention. China, to be exact. Dentistry as we know it didn't even exist till the 1700s. Can you believe it?
Really puts our fancy electric toothbrushes into perspective. And speaking of perspective, you'd be surprised how many people think a tooth is just like one solid thing. But it's actually 4 different tissues in there. Pulp, dentin, enamel, cementum, the gang's all here.
Like a delicious, healthy, layered cake.
Mm.
Right, you've got the crown, that's the part we see, and then below the gum line, doing its hidden work, is the root, anchored right into the jawbone. And of course, we've got our different teeth for different jobs. Incisors up front for biting, canines for tearing, and then those molars in the back, they're the heavy lifters, made for crushing and grinding.
Like a perfectly designed toolkit right in your mouth. Maximum chewing efficiency.
Exactly. And these sources really emphasize that dental health, it's about way more than just a dazzling smile.
Right. Healthy teeth are fundamental.
Mm.
Chewing, obviously, but also speaking clearly, even just maintaining the shape of your face. Your teeth provide crucial support.
It's all connected. Then there's everyone's least favorite guests, cavities. It's like this. The bacteria in our mouths, they throw a sugar-fueled party, producing acid that attacks our enamel. Dentists call it demineralization, and if it goes unchecked, bam, you've got yourself a cavity.
And cavities are not messing around. Left untreated, pain, infection, you could even lose the tooth. No one wants that.
Absolutely not. But here's where it gets really interesting, and this is something that really jumped out at me from these sources. Good dental hygiene, it isn't just about your mouth. It's linked to your overall health.
It's fascinating, really, the connection between oral health and what's going on elsewhere in the body. Studies suggest a link between good dental hygiene and a lower risk of heart disease, stroke, even dementia. Our mouths are a gateway to the rest of our system.
Makes brushing and flossing seem a whole lot more important, huh? Like you said, it's all connected.
It really is. And speaking of keeping those pearly whites sparkling, let's review the fundamentals of good dental hygiene, shall we?
Ah, the classics never go out of style. Brushing twice a day, 2 minutes, fluoride toothpaste, flossing daily, can't skip it.
And let's not forget those regular dental checkups and cleanings, crucial for catching any problems early on, making sure everything's A-OK up in there.
And tempting as they are, limiting sugary drinks and snacks, that's got to be a part of the equation. But beyond our individual habits, these sources talk about the importance of education too, right? For good oral health, I mean.
Absolutely. School programs, public health campaigns, community outreach, it all plays a vital role. Raising awareness, encouraging healthy habits from a young age.
It's never too early to start right.
Mm.
Okay, so we tackled the teeth, but what about the rest of this amazing machine we call the human body? Let's shift gears and talk about dermatology, the science of your skin. And wow, these sources were jam-packed.
It's remarkable, your skin, the body's largest organ, and it does way more than just make you look good.
And speaking of looking good, here's a fact that blew my mind. A dermatologist can identify and treat over 3,000 different skin conditions.
Mind-boggling, right? But before we get to the specialists, let's break down what we're dealing with here. Your skin, along with hair and nails, make up what's called the integumentary system. Catchy, right?
Got a nice ring to it. So that outermost layer, our birthday suit, it's working hard every minute of the day, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Acting as a barrier against infection, regulating your temperature, all those nerve endings for sensation live there. And let's not forget, it even produces vitamin D. With a little help from the sun, of course. It's multitasking at a level most of us can only dream of.
It's true. And speaking of layers, did you know your skin actually has 3 distinct layers? Like a cake, again.
It does. You've got the epidermis on the outside. That's where melanin hangs out. It's responsible for that waterproof barrier and helps regulate your temperature. Then in the middle, there's the dermis, connective tissue, hair follicles, sweat glands. It's a busy place. And finally, the deepest layer, we've got the hypodermis.
Fascinating. And speaking of melanin, these sources had some really interesting things to say about that. It's not just about giving our skin its beautiful variety of colors, right? Melanin's like a natural sunscreen, protecting us from those harmful UV rays. And get this one really surprised me. We all have roughly the same number of melanocytes, the cells that actually produce melanin.
It's true. It's a common misconception that people with darker skin have more melanocytes, the difference in skin tone. It comes down to the amount and type of melanin produced, not the number of cells.
Huh. You learn something new every day.
Yeah.
Now, while we're on the subject of these microscopic wonders, we can't forget about our sebaceous glands, can we?
Oh, yes, the sebaceous glands. These tiny but mighty glands are responsible for producing sebum. That's the oily, waxy substance that helps to keep your skin and hair lubricated and waterproof. You'll find them almost everywhere on your body except, you guessed it, the palms of your hands and the soles of your feet.
And remember how hormone production goes into overdrive during those teenage years? Well, that's why teenagers often have oilier skin than adults. Those sebaceous glands are working overtime.
A completely normal part of development, though I'm sure most teenagers would be happy to do without it.
I can imagine. Okay, so let's talk about those other essential glands, the ones that keep us cool and collected when things heat up, literally.
Right.
Sweat glands, two main types. Eccrine glands, which are all over the body, and then apocrine glands, which tend to hang out in areas with hair follicles. And like those sebaceous glands we were just talking about, they're stimulated by hormones.
It's worth remembering that sweat itself is mostly water, but it also contains salt, sugar, and other important stuff.
Like a personalized electrolyte drink, just, minus the flavor. Now, speaking of things that sprout from our skin, let's not forget about hair. Hair follicles, those tiny little, I don't know what to call them, they're like mini factories churning out new hair cells all the time.
Each hair follicle is a marvel of engineering, really. Hair growth starts at the base of the follicle, called the hair bulb, and as new cells are produced, they move upward, harden, and eventually die, forming the hair shaft that we see and style and, let's be honest, sometimes obsess over.
Oh, absolutely. And those sources really highlighted biotin, vitamin B7, and how important it is for healthy hair, skin, and even nails.
It's true, biotin is crucial, and you can find it in foods like eggs, nuts, and seeds. If you're not getting enough biotin, it can actually lead to hair loss and skin rashes, so it's definitely something to be mindful of.
Good to know. So we've covered the fascinating world of skin and hair, but what about the experts who dedicate their lives to understanding these complex systems? Let's talk about dermatologists.
Dermatologists are the skin whisperers. They're medical doctors who specialize in all things skin, hair, and nails. They're the ones you turn to when you have a skin concern, whether it's acne, eczema, psoriasis, hair loss, or something more serious like skin cancer. Remember those 3,000 plus conditions we mentioned earlier? Dermatologists are equipped to diagnose and treat them all.
Wow. They really are the skin
Yeah.
whisperers. And one thing that really jumped out at me in these sources was the emphasis on skin cancer prevention.
It's such a critical message, especially with skin cancer being the most common type of cancer in the United States. The good news is, it's also highly preventable.
And thankfully, the prevention advice is pretty straightforward, right?
It really is. Seeking shade during those peak sun hours, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., covering up with protective clothing, hats, sunglasses, long sleeves when you can swing it, and of course, sunscreen. Broad spectrum, SPF 30 or higher, that's key.
And reapply, reapply, reapply. Every 2 hours, or even more often if you're sweating or swimming.
Couldn't agree more. And while we're talking about being proactive, don't underestimate those regular self-exams. Get to know your skin. Any moles or spots that look suspicious? Maybe they're new, changing, just not quite right. Don't wait. Go see a dermatologist.
Better safe than sorry, that's my motto. All right, we've covered seeing and keeping our eyes healthy, but how about our sense of hearing? It's amazing how our senses work together, to create our experience of the world.
It's true. Each one providing a unique piece of the puzzle. Let's start with sight. It's incredible how something invisible like light can be transformed into the images we see. It all starts with light entering the eye through the cornea, that clear, protective outer layer.
Like the window to your eye.
Exactly. From there, the light passes through the pupil, that's the little black dot in the center of your eye, and the iris, which is the colored part of your eye, it actually controls the size of the pupil, adjusting how much light enters based on how bright it is around you.
It's like the iris is the eye's personal bouncer, controlling the flow of light.
I like that analogy. Okay, so the light's made it past the bouncer, now what? Well, it hits the lens, that flexible structure that focuses the light onto the retina. Think of the lens like the camera lens of your eye.
So the retina is where the real magic happens.
Exactly. The retina is a light-sensitive layer at the very back of the eye. It contains special cells called rods and cones, and these cells, they convert that light into electrical signals.
It's like the retina is translating the light into a language our brain can understand.
Precisely. And those electrical signals are then sent from the retina to the brain via the optic nerve, like a high-speed information highway connecting your eyes to your brain.
And then voila, Our brain processes those signals and ta-da,
Hmm.
creates the images we see. It's mind-bogglingly fast, the whole process.
It really is. And every single part of the eye, the cornea, pupil, iris, lens, retina, optic nerve, they all have to be working together perfectly for us to see clearly.
Makes you grateful for those mornings when you just wake up and your eyes just work. Speaking of eyes, those sources had some interesting stuff about color blindness, that inability to see colors in the typical way.
Yeah, it's more common than a lot of people realize. And it all comes down to those color sensing cells we were talking about in the retina, the cones. Most people have three types of cones, each one sensitive to a different wavelength of light: red, green, and blue.
Like those primary colors we learned about back in elementary school.
Exactly. But with color blindness, there's a fault in the development of one or more of these cone types. And that can lead to difficulty distinguishing between certain colors. Here's a fascinating tidbit. Most color vision problems, they're actually inherited, they're genetic and present at birth.
That makes sense. I remember reading that males are more likely to be colorblind than females. Any
Mhm.
idea why that is?
Yeah. It's all about those X and Y chromosomes. You see, the genes responsible for color vision are located on the X chromosome. Females have two X chromosomes, while males have one X and one Y. So if a female inherits one X chromosome with a faulty color vision gene, she's got a backup copy on her other X chromosome. Males, on the other hand, they only have one shot at a functioning color vision gene on that single X chromosome.
Wow, it's like a game of genetic roulette, and men have slightly higher odds of landing on colorblind.
Exactly. Now, there's no cure for most types of color blindness, but there are special glasses and contact lenses that can help some people with color deficiencies see a broader range of colors.
That's amazing. Technology to the rescue.
Yeah.
Speaking of vision, let's give a shout out to the folks who help keep our eyes in tip-top shape, optometrists.
The heroes of the vision world. Optometrists are those healthcare professionals who are specially trained to examine our eyes, our whole visual system, looking for any defects or abnormalities. They're the ones who can tell if you need glasses or contacts. Plus, they can diagnose and treat a whole range of eye conditions.
And they've got all those cool tools, too.
Oh, yeah, they do. Like the good old-fashioned visual acuity test, the one big E at the top, all those letters getting smaller and smaller. Or the phoropter, that big kind of intimidating-looking thing with all the lenses. They have you look through it, and they keep asking, which is better, one or two?
But I just feel like I'm in a sci-fi movie when they bring that thing out.
Me too. Optometrists also use ophthalmoscopes to examine the inside of the eye, the retina, the optic nerve, the blood vessels. It's pretty amazing what they can see. And the best part is, they can often detect early signs of eye conditions like glaucoma, cataracts, macular degeneration. Early detection is key.
It's true. It makes those regular eye exams all the more important, right?
Yeah.
Even if you think your vision is perfect, those checkups are crucial. Okay, from the world of sight, let's journey into the equally amazing world of sound, the sense of hearing.
Ah, yes, hearing. Often underappreciated, wouldn't you say? Just like with sight, the process of how we hear is remarkable.
It all starts with those invisible vibration sound waves.
Right. And those sound waves, they travel through the air and into our ears, through the ear canal, that tunnel-like structure in the outer ear.
And then they hit the eardrum. It's like the drumhead of your ear.
Aptly named, isn't it? The eardrum is a thin, delicate membrane that vibrates when those sound waves hit it. Those vibrations are then passed along to three tiny bones in the middle ear: the malleus, inguinus, and stapes.
The malleus, inguinus, stapes. Try saying that 3 times fast.
Right. They sound like characters from a fantasy novel or something, but don't let their size fool you. They're actually the smallest bones in the entire human body. And they play a vital role. They amplify those sound vibrations.
A microscopic amplifier. I love it.
Exactly. And once those vibrations have been amplified by the middle ear bones, they reach the inner ear, which houses the cochlea.
The cochlea, now that's a word that's always sounded kind of magical to me.
Well, it kind of is magical. The cochlea is a spiral-shaped, fluid-filled structure that houses thousands upon thousands of tiny hair cells. And these hair cells, they're incredibly sensitive. When they detect those vibrations in the fluid, they convert them into, you guessed it, electrical signals.
Just like the retina in the eye. So the cochlea is taking those physical signals, the vibrations, and transforming them into electrical signals that the brain can make sense of.
Precisely. Those electrical signals then travel from the cochlea to the brain via the auditory nerve, where they're processed and interpreted as the sounds we hear.
It really is mind-blowing. Our bodies can take something as intangible as sound waves and transform them into this whole symphony of sounds that we experience all day long.
It really is a testament to just how powerful and complex our sensory systems are.
Now, I noticed that these sources also test on the topic of hearing impairment, and it's something that affects a lot of people,
Yeah.
millions worldwide.
It's a significant health concern for sure. And it can range from mild hearing loss all the way to profound deafness. And unfortunately, there are a lot of things that can contribute to hearing loss genetics, just the natural process of aging, exposure to loud noises over time, certain medical conditions, even some medications.
It's not always easy to spot the signs either, especially in those early stages. Some people might not even realize their hearing is declining.
Very true. The signs can be subtle, especially at first. Someone with hearing loss might ask people to repeat themselves a lot, or maybe they have trouble following conversations, especially in noisy environments like restaurants or parties. They might turn up the volume on the TV louder than they used to, or they might experience ringing or buzzing in their ears. That's called tinnitus.
Yeah, those are all good things to look out for. Red flags that something might be up. But the good news is, if it's caught early, there are often ways to manage hearing loss and prevent it from getting worse.
Absolutely. And there are also a lot of great assistive devices out there now to help people with hearing loss, like hearing aids, which amplify sounds, and cochlear implants, which actually bypass damaged parts of the inner ear and directly stimulate the auditory nerve. These devices can really be life-changing, allowing people to reconnect with the world of sound.
It's incredible how far technology has come in terms of helping people with hearing loss. It's a good reminder that even though we've covered a lot of ground today about these incredible sensory organs, our eyes and ears, there's always more to learn.
Always. And speaking of learning, I think it's important to remember the interconnectedness of everything we've talked about today.
I was just thinking that we've been talking about our teeth, skin, eyes, and ears as these individual systems, but in reality, they're all part of this one big, incredibly complex and interconnected organism, the human body.
Precisely. And these sources, while they're super informative, they really just provide a glimpse into this fascinating world of human health.
Like we've opened a few doors, but there are countless other rooms to explore.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of learning, isn't it? It's a journey, not a destination.
It makes you realize that taking care of your health, it's not just about like checking things off a list. It's about understanding how it all works together, this amazing system.
It's so true. And that's something I'd encourage everyone listening to think about as you keep learning about these topics. Those sources we looked at, they're a great starting point. We get into the mechanics of our teeth, our skin, eyes, ears, but they don't necessarily paint the whole picture, do they? How our environment and our lifestyle choices, all of that, how it all factors in.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's like we've zoomed in on the individual parts, but what happens when we zoom back out?
Mm.
Look at the whole, I don't know, the whole landscape.
Exactly. Like, we know that pollution, exposure to certain chemicals, all of that can impact our skin health, right? But could those environmental factors also affect our eyes? Could something like air pollution make us more prone to certain eye conditions? It makes you wonder.
It really does. Or how about stress? We always hear about how stress can manifest physically.
Hmm.
But could chronic stress actually contribute to things like teeth grinding? Or even impact our hearing?
It's fascinating. These are all areas where there's a lot of research going on, and it just highlights how interconnected everything is. Our bodies, our world, it's all linked.
Like that saying, everything is connected.
It really is. And that's why taking a holistic approach to health is so important. It's not about treating each part in isolation, but really trying to understand how it all interacts. Internal factors, external factors, it all plays a role.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, is there anything in particular you hope our listeners will take away from all of this?
More than anything, I hope they gain a deeper appreciation for how incredible their bodies are, how complex, how resilient. It's easy to take our health for granted, but the truth is our bodies are working incredibly hard every second of every day to keep us going.
It's true.
Yeah.
And with little knowledge and effort, we can help them out, right?
Exactly. And that leads to my second point. Knowledge is power, especially when it comes to our health. The more we understand about how our bodies work, the better decisions we can make about our lifestyles, our healthcare, everything.
It's about taking charge of our own health journey, right? Being proactive.
Exactly. And look, that doesn't mean we all need to become doctors or scientists or anything, but it does mean staying curious, asking questions, and don't be afraid to advocate for yourself.
Couldn't agree more. Well, to everyone listening, I hope this deep dive has been, I don't know, eye-opening, maybe even ear-opening. We've gone deep on the fascinating world of your teeth, skin, eyes, and ears. But like we've been saying, this is really just the beginning, right?
It is. So keep exploring, keep that curiosity alive, and never stop being amazed by the wonders of this incredible machine we call the human body.